All right, hey everybody, welcome to the Tolkien Collector's Guide. We are here today to talk about the recent release of the Folio Society's limited edition Lord of the Rings box set that came out a few days ago and sold out in about a day and a half for a 1,000-copy release. Quite impressive as far as how quickly this thing sold out, especially given the price that it was listed at. Andrew Trotter here with a set of his own is going to walk us through a little bit of his impressions on it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, I think the book, when I first got it, of course, I'd actually looked at the website and the press release that was done, and I thought it was going to be quite smaller than this. One of the things that really surprised me is just how big the books are. And I've seen some pictures this week of people who collect Folio Society books with this book next to their folios, and this is actually quite a common size for the more common, the current Folio Society editions. They actually seem to quite like this size, but it's something that takes a bit of getting used to. It's actually a very nice size for the book. The book itself. The pictures are very nice in it because they're done on high quality paper and then tipped in to the book. So each picture is tipped in. Plus, there's a picture on the front of each of the books. The text is quite a nice size, and also it's a very current text as well. Which I actually quite like as well. They've actually incorporated most of the corrections. So people who say, what is the best version of the Lord of the Rings to buy in terms of text? This one is as good as last year's Tolkien Illustrated 1-volume edition. But it also has a note on the text in as well, which is always a shame to see missing. They're both there. Both notes on the text are in the book. There's a very nice map in the back which folds out, so you can actually have it's like a little book that you can actually open and look at the map while you're reading the book. And that's a very clever idea, because normally they come as fold out maps, but people are then worried, am I going to lose it? Is it going to disappear? You won't really lose this one because it's actually inside a little book. It looks like a very small book, and there's a print from Alan, which I think we do need to find out from Alan Lee, and it's something that I think I'll see if we can contact him to find out what the new pictures are in there, because as opposed to me spending hours going through and looking for every single picture and comparing it with the old ones, I think there are some new pictures in here, and it'd be nice for Alan to actually come up with a list of what the new ones are. But he's done borders as well for each of it. So each of the pictures has a border, and each of the chapters has a border, which is a bit like the David Wenzel Hobbit, where they did a border for each of the chapters there. They're like that, but Alan Lee's done them, and I quite like that as well. The slipcase is nice because it has a triptych on it, which is very reminiscent then of Pauline Bain's slipcase, where it goes around, and when you actually look at it, it is the whole book effectively. So it starts in the Shire, ends up at Mount Doom as it goes around the slipcase. And on the whole, I've been looking at it now since I've had it since Friday, and I'm really struggling with finding anything in there that I don't really like. It's the age-old problem with cloth bindings, is they attract the dust, so it's already got dusty, and that is leather, whereas leather books don't. So I suppose, and I could also argue that it would have been nice if it had been full leather, and not just leather on the bindings. But the leather's very nicely tooled. I am struggling to come up with anything really that I have that I can say it isn't great on it. It's really well thought over and designed. It's excellent. Of course, the big problem is the price. and that's something I think we'll all have a bit of a discussion about now, about the price of the book and whether people, whether we think it was whether it's a good buy, or whether it's something on, or should you give it a miss because it's too expensive?
Yeah, well, we don't have a choice anymore. It's officially sold out. So it'll be secondary market only. But yeah, the list price for this book was £1,000, 1,500 US dollars, almost 2,000 Canadian, and over 2,000 Australian. I don't remember the price in euros, but I think it was close to 1,500 there as well. So in the jaw-dropping sense, this is a fantastic price. You know, it's it's so much higher than any limited edition, Tolkien specific limited edition from the Folio Society, from HarperCollins, going back to, you know, Allen and Unwin, or Unwin Hyman, etc. It's the Easton Press. There are a lot of fantastic limited editions out there. I think the German publisher Klett-Cotta did a 900 euro Lord of the Rings at one point. So prices for these editions are definitely going up, and going up rapidly. And it was a tough choice for a lot of fans whether this particular edition was worth it for their collection. And obviously, there are at least 1,000 people out there, or resellers, who snapped this up in a little over 30 hours, I think was how long it took it to sell out. That's a little bit longer than many Folio Society limited editions can take. Some recent ones, I think they did a Dune one that sold out in just a few hours. So there are a lot of Folio Society collectors out there that were interested in this edition, in addition, and also the Tolkien collectors who were interested in this as well. It did not meet my personal standards, right? I think you two both ordered a set. Chad, yours hasn't come in yet to you for you to have in hand. I decided to pass on it. Even when it was getting down to low numbers and was going to sell out soon, I just wasn't interesting enough to me. And that's a matter of personal taste, just from what I could see from the videos, the images that people were sharing, etc. It just, I have very limited space on the shelves behind me, and this was not one that I wanted to dedicate a whopping, 12 inches by 8 inches, or however big these are massive books. So I'm impressed with the quality of the build, how it was constructed, the craftsmanship that went into it. So for me, it was just a matter of taste, and the original Alan Lee illustrations that are exclusive to this edition is probably the biggest draw for me on what I might have wanted to have in hand. My expectation is that someday those will show up in other editions. I don't think they'll remain exclusive to this limited edition forever, but I could be wrong. That's something I don't think we could speak to till much further along. How about you, Chad?
So I went through several stages of wobbling back and forth as to whether or not I was going to buy this edition. The press release, came out about a week before. Folio laid the groundwork. They did a really good job of kind of building interest, which I think they do with a lot of their limited editions. And I looked at what I was thinking I was going to have to spend on this particular edition, and it far exceeded what I thought I was going to have to spend, the money that I had set aside. And so at the beginning, there was a lot of conversation about where the book was, or how quickly the book was going to sell. And there was a lot of conversation on the site. There was a lot of I had a lot of conversation with off-site with people about whether they had bought it and whether or not they were going to buy one. And the consensus was that we were going to wait and see if the price would come down a little bit. Well, that quickly evaporated after about 12 hours or so. That sort of feeling amongst the people that I was talking to kind of evaporated. And so I began to move in that direction. I'm not a big fan of the color scheme I mean, I agree with what y'all are saying about the way that the books are made. I think the quality is second to none. I have some folio books. I kind of looked at this as I don't have the 2002 edition. I don't have that limited edition because when those came out, I had kind of just started collecting Tolkien, and I wasn't aware of kind of things like that, and I never got that set, and it's always been sort of on the back burner for me. Like I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll get that set when I can, and I should have gotten it, years ago, because now the prices for that set on the secondhand market are they're just insane. I can't justify spending the amount of money that secondhand sellers want for the 2002 limited edition set, which is not just the Lord of the Rings for anybody who's watching this. It's the Silmarillion and the Hobbit together. I'm also not a big fan of the color scheme on that set either. But this set is definitely the colors on it are definitely better than that set. Having said that, I am a big fan of the hidden image inside the slipcase. I think that's a really nice touch. I can't think of unless y'all can, I can't think of another set off the top of my head that has that, a Tolkien set that has the hidden image inside the slipcase. What Andrew was saying, I do like the maps that are kind of like its own book. I think that's a really nice touch. It's definitely an upgrade over what HarperCollins gave us last year. I mean, those maps that came with that deluxe edition are very nice, but I think, again, I don't have them yet, but and Andrew maybe can speak on this. The fact that they're kind of in their own fold out book that's a fantastic touch. I know that some collectors have said that the size is actually an issue. I've heard some people say that the size of these books make them difficult to handle. The size for me was one of the tipping points when I actually kind of saw the actual size as compared to some other books. That pushed me over kind of gave me the push that I needed to go ahead and get these. Like I said, I thought I would have longer. I had that money earmarked for something else, but that will have to wait now because we all make choices, right? Jeremy made a choice. I made a choice. Andrew, you made a choice. So, but
it's interesting you're talking about the size because the video that the Folio Society did was very good, but you can't really tell the size of the book's at normal size in that.
No,
unless this person, their hand size, they've changed it. They didn't look to me look as big as they actually are.
Yeah, and they published the size, but I guess I didn't really pay close enough attention to like just how big that they were.
Yeah.
But then once I saw your images where you were comparing them to, that really was that really pushed me over because I think that's great. Andrew, you said that the images some of them are tipped in. Can you explain to everybody what it means to be tipped in?
Yeah. So what they've done is they print the page, and the page, so it's on the same paper as the rest of the book, and then there's a border around the printed on that page, and then the actual images themselves, the actual illustrations, are done on art quality paper. And they're cut up to the right size, and then they're stuck at the top onto the page.
That was the other thing too about the images. One of the big disappointments I had with the HarperCollins Deluxe Edition last year was the image quality. I thought a lot of the images were too dark, or they didn't show up in the way that I thought that they should have. And with this edition, the images, I thought the Folio Society did a much better job with really portraying the vivid colors of Alan Lee's artwork within the book. Again, I haven't seen them in person yet. Only Andrew has, of the three of us, but I thought that they were much better done based on what I saw.
Yeah, and it is a problem, I think, with last year's deluxe edition and the ordinary, the one volume Tolkien edition, was that they used the same paper, and realistically for images, when you're producing those, you do have to use different paper for it, because it's not one bit of paper it matches all. It's good. The paper can be good for printing text on it, but not very good for images. And there's different paper for that. And you get around that by tipping in the pictures. I am interested to see what happens with the Silmarillion this year as to whether they use different paper for Tolkien's.
I hope they do.
images, as opposed to printing it on the same paper like I did last year for the Lord of the Rings.
I hope that HarperCollins has some better quality control this fall than they did last fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question of quality control on the Folio Society limited editions.
I made some joke about Folio Society's quality control, but it's really just a joke because I don't think Folio Society historically has had any issues with their quality control.
No, the only thing that I've noticed what they got wrong was obviously with the early Hobbits, where they managed to put George Allen Unwin and forgot to take that out. That's the only bit of quality control that. So there's actually two versions of that Hobbit, one with Folio Society inside it, and one with George Allen Unwin.
And I have both.
Yes, but that was a quality control issue, which they seem to have got over a long time ago, and they
that was 45 years ago, Andrew.
So yeah, they got over that.
So in the press release for this edition and on their website, I was just looking over here at some of the wording that they use. They've got, exquisite, lavish, exacting, beautiful, majestic. I mean, they're really trying to sell this. I do agree. A lot of those are majestic. I know it's in there. But the word I wanted to focus on now and for us to talk a little bit more about is ultimate. They used ultimate a couple of times to describe this book. And that means, the best. There's never going to be anything better than this, or at least up to this point, there has never been anything better. I don't agree with that. I mean, well, as I said, on my taste level, this one doesn't feel ultimate to me. There's choices I would have done differently personally. So we'll spend a little time talking about each of our feelings on that. But yeah, do you guys feel like this is the ultimate Lord of the Rings set at this point?
I feel it's one of the nicest copies that I own, and that's including the earlier editions as well. But it's certainly not the ultimate. One of the things that I really like about the original deluxe edition of the Lord of the Rings was the slipcase, the art on that. Now, in this case, the art's been put inside the slipcase and not round the outside. There is a triptych on it, but that was a fantastically designed case for the 1963 deluxe edition of the Lord of the Rings, and I'd have to say that I think the slipcase there would be hard pushed to get a better Tolkien slipcase than that. But then, and also, I think I mentioned this already, this would have been nice if it had been full leather as well, really. I do like full leather books. I think they don't have the dust problem that comes up with other ones, and they do. You do think, well, this is really a top quality book if it's full leather and not really tiny bits of bonded leather. It's got to be proper leather on it. But of course, you can get that yourself by actually rebinding a set of books, and you can use a bookbinder, and you will get a very nice and a unique copy normally if you go down that route. So you could argue that an ultimate edition would be to take one that you like and then get it rebound.
Yeah, those are. Go ahead, Craig.
Oh well, I was just going to say, yeah, if you get it rebound, you can make it look however you want it to look. Because I mean, as long as your bookbinder can do it for you.
There's some really high quality bookbinders out there that have done some fantastic works and some very odd looking ones as well. I think we've talked about some of those in the past.
So just real quick as a sidebar, what would I'm just curious because I have some estimates, but like what would, if somebody wanted to take a set of Lord of the Rings, like a trade set, and have them bound in the way that they wanted, what would the cost be as compared to what people just paid for this Folio Society edition?
It depends what you want. If you have them, if you take a set of the Lord of the Rings and you get them bound and you do them in the sort of the traditional binding with leather, which is blocking on the spine, and then possibly and the title in gold and possibly some gilt on there as well. That's quite easy normally for a bookbinder to do. If you then start to go down the route of, say, reproducing the hill on the front cover in leather, you're talking a lot of money at that point. So it's what you ask them to do. It's how difficult, and basically it's how long it takes them to do. They take a long time anyway, because what tends to happen is if you get the book rebound, you're also getting it restitched. So normally they'll take it all to pieces, they'll restitch it again. They make new boards, so they remove the boards that are there already, make new ones, put leather on them, block it. You can pick the colors that you want. And
quality leather.
The quality leather, yes. So we normally would go for Morocco, which I don't think this is. This isn't Morocco on the Folio Society.
I was going to ask if it's Morocco or not.
No, I don't think it is. It's not Morocco.
In the press release, did they?
The way you can tell Morocco normally is the size of the sort of grain on there. It's usually smaller than on other types of leather, because it's made from goats as opposed to cowhide.
Yep.
The cowhide has larger grain, effectively.
Yeah, I was just interested because, if somebody who's watching this and they missed out on the Folio edition books, maybe they could, that might be some sort of consolation for them.
I think you could easily spend 2 to 3 times as much as the Folio Society for like a Chelsea bindery or.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
I've done some quotes and work and discussions with some bookbinders on, when you get it to the leather quality and custom dies for doing the stamping on the boards or on the spine with imagery that isn't mass produced, each of those dies costs potentially hundreds of pounds or dollars to have made. So it adds up quickly, and you get something that's absolutely unique and to your own tastes.
Yeah, I've had some discussions with David Miller about different slipcase colors, and the cost is just not, like, that's always sort of prohibited me from getting any sort of custom color that he doesn't have, just because the dyes are so, they're so expensive.
Yep.
And you got to buy them in a large quantity too. That's the other thing. You can't just buy them just for your project.
Yep. So we were talking ultimate. If I myself, full leather is absolutely required. I am leaning towards either unillustrated or someone new. I think I maybe even an edition that has illustrations from dozens or more illustrators to find like the images that match my mental picture for various scenes in the book, and just have, a lot of different illustrators in there. For me, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. I don't think a publisher is going to do that ever. So it would have to be something handmade from top to bottom. But that's sort of what I'm picturing. I love the quality of the materials of the last 2 super deluxes that HarperCollins did, the Children of Húrin and the Sigurd and Gudrun, with the clamshell case, the full leather, the construction quality of those was fantastic. The materials they chose. So something along those lines. I don't like single volume Lord of the Rings. For me, I love the original 3-volume layout. I've seen some fantastic work done with the artwork that crosses across the 3 spines. So when you have them together, there's sort of a single motif. I've seen like the Gates of Moria done by other custom binderies, etc. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I can picture in my mind's eye what to me an ultimate edition would look like. This one was pretty good, but it is not an ultimate edition in my mind by any stretch.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. I think as well, bringing up the Children of Húrin Super Deluxe, that's a fantastic book. And the Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun, I don't like the leather so much in that one. It's not quite as nice, so I still go for the best one. Really, is the Children of Húrin. I think they use different leather between the 2, but it's a wonderful designed book. And again, for an Alan Lee book, I'd say that probably is. I would say that's the best one for an Alan Lee edition at the moment. Is still that one, and not this latest Folio Society edition.
So for me, an ultimate, a lot of Jeremy stole a lot of the things that I would want for an ultimate edition of Lord of the Rings. It's difficult because it's not like one. There's actually, when I think about the ultimate edition of Lord of the Rings, I guess it depends on what edition that would be, because as we know, there's deluxe editions, there's trade editions, and things like that. In terms of like the best that I think could be produced, it would, like y'all said, it would have to be full leather. Quarter bound is not going to cut it for me, even though I just bought these. But quarter bound is not going to cut it for me. I really like Jeremy's idea of using different artists for different things, sort of like what HarperCollins is doing with this recent, or with the upcoming calendar that they're doing. If they could kind of move that into some sort of published edition of Lord of the Rings, would be fantastic. I think that would enhance your reading experience to see different artists' interpretations as you're going through the story. I'm a big fan of marbled in papers. I really like, that's kind of a must for me, is that's kind of says deluxe, is when you have the marbled in papers. All of with the exception of the India paper editions, all the one volume Lord of the Rings that I have, they're subject to spine issues, and so text blocks separating from the binding, and so it's really hard to do a one volume edition of the Lord of the Rings really well, just because of that issue. Because I think, and y'all can maybe speak more to this than I can, but I think it's difficult, like in order for you to have such a big one volume edition, the quality has to be there, and it's not just like on a mass scale, not a mass produced scale. And so that's, I think, why you have some of the issues there. So it'd have to be 3 volumes. I really like Jeremy's idea of having artwork sort of matching on the spine. I've seen probably the same stuff that Jeremy's referencing with the Gates of Moria, and that would just be fantastic. What do we think about like a 7 volume sort of thing? That would be kind of cool, right? That would be something unusual to have a 7 volume. You could do a bigger piece of artwork, right, and have it match all the way across the 7 volumes.
That is quite a good idea, actually. To have that is with leather, because you would have a really nice big area for the binding to put.
And it would be easier to handle because each one of the books would be smaller. So you could, if you wanted to read it, you could actually read it. Because one of the things that I really like about the Easton Press books is that they hold, you can actually read them and feel like you're not gonna, they're very sturdy. You feel like you can read them and you're not worried about you're going to damage them or mess with the binding or anything like that. Clamshell case would be a must. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Children of Hurin and the Sigurd and Gudrun, the clamshell cases that they came with. I think that would be fantastic as well.
So I think this is our last point to touch on, is what does this mean that this sold out so quickly at such a high price for Tolkien collecting in general for the foreseeable future, for the way the market is right now? To me, this price was about twice what I was expecting the Folio Society would be asking. There's obviously no complaint. The market was there. They priced this correctly. I'm sure they're hitting themselves over the head, not pricing it higher. And, just they're in the business to print high quality books and make money. So they obviously know their market and they hit this one well. We did see right around the same time that the high-end collector's edition of The Maker of Middle-earth from the Bodleian Press upped their price. They almost doubled their price retail for their book after the Folio Society edition sold out. So there's clearly a feeling that collectibles and high-end collectibles should be priced higher right now coming from the publishers. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's partly to do with the secondary market as well. A lot of the publishers have clearly don't really want to produce a book and then see people on eBay making twice as much money from them straight away. But it's very difficult to price your book are you going to sell them out? And if you think about, which I've mentioned on the Tolkien guide, the Children of Hurin took 10 years to sell. at £350, and multiple times they actually did 2-for-1s on that. So they actually sold some of them for £175. It still took 10 years, and that was 500 copies. So clearly they didn't get the price right for that edition from the start.
Or they don't know how to market.
Or they don't know how to market. And when it came round to Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun, they couldn't sell those either until they decided to get the Folio Society to sell them, and they sold out in about 2 days after they gave them to the Folio Society. So the Folio Society, as Jeremy says, are very, very good at marketing these sort of books. And that's why I think is £1,000 okay, and should we expect to see lots of other books, the prices going up? I think probably on the basis of this, yes, we should. I think they are going to start going up.
Yeah, I'm curious
High-end books.
I'm curious to know if this means that HarperCollins is handing over the deluxes and super deluxes to the Folio Society, right? This is sort of a change in that the Folio Society had worldwide rights for this. I'm not 100% certain, but they were generally not able to sell in the United States prior to the merger of Houghton Mifflin Harcourt and HarperCollins, which finished last year, that merger. So this is a new era of the Folio Society. It might affect Easton Press. We don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But the fact that the price was clearly targeted at a very high-end market, it sold so well. HarperCollins has struggled in the past. I'm wondering if we might never see a super deluxe from HarperCollins again, if they will leverage this relationship with Folio Society, which is clearly working so incredibly well.
Well, they were very impressed with the fact that they managed to get rid of the Sigurd and Gudrun books in about 2 days. Mm-hmm. When they saw no end, they didn't really see an obvious end date for selling those. So I think there is a very good relationship between those two publishing houses.
Yeah, and I think the bean counters at HarperCollins definitely remember those two editions from 10, 15 years ago, and how difficult it was for them to sell them. And so I think that could definitely be, there may be, and I don't know, there may be a creative team at HarperCollins that want to do a super deluxe, and their accounting division just won't let them, or something. There could be, we don't have an intimate knowledge of the inner workings of HarperCollins, so there could be maybe they want to do it, but they're being blocked or something. Who knows? But I think that's interesting that and this is something I didn't think about till y'all brought it up, is that maybe HarperCollins has sort of given Folio the green light to begin producing more and more of these, and they're taking a fee from the licensing fee. And
they are good at it. They're giving it to a company that's all they do really, is high-end editions.
Because the last limited Tolkien project that Folio did was 20 years ago, and there hasn't been one in 20 years. So I think that probably contributed as well to how quickly they sold out, because I know I talked to a couple of collectors who said, well, I could buy it now, and I may have to wait another 20 years for a limited, for the Folio to do this again. And so that was there. I heard a couple of people say that too. But I think that we won't have to wait 20 years with the current Tolkien market. I think we might get a Hobbit, we might get a Silmarillion from Folio. We may even get an Unfinished Tales or something a little bit more obscure.
Well, interestingly, we haven't seen any sign of a deluxe edition of Tolkien Silmarillion, illustrated Silmarillion, coming out from HarperCollins. No mention of that. Now, why is that? You have to start thinking, is that because they're going to get the Folio Society to do it instead? Yeah,
they might. Yeah. We could see, maybe we'll get a 3-volume History of Middle Earth from Folio. That would be interesting to see what they do with that. I don't know if that will sell as quickly, but
I think there's a pretty good chance we'll see a similar, I'll call it a deluxe slipcased Silmarillion. I know they've only announced the trade. I think it's too early to tell based on, what little bit of information is coming out of them so far, but would love to see the Folio Society go a little deeper into the Legendarium. You know, they've obviously done Hobbit and Silmarillion in the past. They've done 5-volume limited edition sets, but I don't believe they've ever done History of Middle Earth, Unfinished Tales. You know, there's a whole catalog of books I think would be fun for them to do, similar to what Easton Press has done. It would, in my mind, be very important that if they did go that direction, that there was some unity of design. I think that's one thing Easton Press suffers from, is they've been doing it for decades. And if you
Easton Press is too uniform.
Well, they're all the green leather, but they're not all the same height. They have different tooling. So if you put a collection of 15 to 20 Easton Press volumes on the shelf together, you get a bit of that mountainous summit line going along.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now, and they're all different sizes, and yeah, that's one of the things. The spines are different. That's one that gets on my nerves a little bit, that the spines are all
Yep.
Then they're completely different. They're not even like close to being the same.
Yep. So yeah. Any final points you guys want to bring up about this Folio Society edition before I close this out?
Well, apart from the fact that if people are interested in this, there's quite a lot on the Tolkien Collector's Guide, surprisingly, about there's quite a lot of pictures on there that I put on. There's a lot of debate, and people are welcome to come on and join in the discussion and put their views. I think I'm very interested to see what people say is their ultimate edition of the Lord of the Rings, and I've been fascinated to see that. So please come along to the Tolkien Collector's Guide and have a look and contribute.
Yeah, and if you missed out on this one because you didn't know about it, that's because you don't follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. You would have known.
Yep. So yeah, news of this was at least publicly starting to come out a week beforehand. The website for the Folio Society suffered from the popularity of this edition. It was very hard to get on for the first hour or so.
We crashed the site. I forgot about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, sometimes these things move really fast. I think it caught many people by surprise that the limited edition sold out so quickly. You're limited to the, no pun intended, the secondary market now. If this particular edition is to your taste and you want one, it's my expectation, which take with a grain of salt, because I got how quickly this would sell out wrong. I think that there will
so did I as well.
there will be lots of copies available on the secondary market. That's very common when these things are selling quickly and there's fear of missing out and there's a lot of buzz around it. Many copies were bought by secondary sellers. The prices are steeply marked up from list right now. That may not always be the case. We can't speculate at all where prices will be in 5 to 10 years. It seems like a really high quality build. I think it will hold value. I think it will always be a desirable collectible to a portion of the collecting community, but you never can tell. So buy it when the price is comfortable to you, and don't use books as an investment vehicle. I always recommend people do this for the enjoyment of having some high quality books in your hands.
Yeah, we don't give investment advice. That's quite an important thing.
I always tell people to buy collectibles that are actually worth money, not books.
Buy things that you like. That's the trick.
Yes,
if you like it, buy it.
Yes.
Buy things that you like. Yes.
Yep. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. It's a pleasure talking with you, Andrew and Chad. We will continue to do these more often. I think this was an absolute pleasure to get together. I'm glad that there are new editions coming out that we can all get excited about and talk about and share with each other. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.